The canal had many problems. The railroad probably, I would say, would be the single greatest. Everybody knows that Boston was a center of railroading. Well, one of the reasons they were a center of railroading is that they were deeply concerned about the inroads that Providence merchants were making into Worcester County. The canal had proved a tremendous success in carrying goods into Worcester County and bringing the produce of Worcester County out. But instead of the traditional port of Boston, it was all going to Providence. Boston, which was a commercial city, was seriously concerned about this. And in 1831, they made the rather bold move of deciding to build a railroad all the way to Worcester. It was completed in 1835, and in fact, the first locomotive that ran in New England ran between Boston and Worcester. 1835, it was completed, and in the following year, 1836, the dividends on the canal dropped 20%. The railroad was a tough act to compete against. It could run all year long. It wasn't subject to low water. It wasn't subject to freezes in the winter. And if you're competing against somebody, as we all know, what you try and do is keep your rates low, so you offer a good bargain, which they did. They could also move much more quickly than the canal. And you have to say that the railroad was indeed a serious problem for the canal. Not the only problem. The canal could well have continued to operate for a much longer period than it did had it been able to provide a good enough service, at least on the lower stretches of the canal. Maybe not all the way to Worcester, but there's an awful lot of industry and commerce in the areas that weren't being served by that Boston and Worcester Railroad that the canal could have captured, but they were never really effective in really convincing people that they were the best way to travel, and their dividends continued, their dividends disappeared, and their tolls continued to drop.